Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We are doing a year review of the Sur-ron X. I bought it last December and it is December 3rd right now, so it's just under a year. And I have dumped it. I've driven it through tons and tons of water, knee-deep water. I've driven it through snow. I've driven quite a bit on the road and just on trails in general. And I have quite a lot to say about this bike.
I hate this channel.
No! No!
Alright guys, so if you don't know what we are looking at, and this is your first time checking out one of our videos, this is a fully electric dirt bike. It's about the size of a 100cc. It is called the Sur-ron Light Bee. There's a Light Bee and a Light Bee X version. The X version being like the newest version. It has a couple new parts, stuff like that. I have other channels about specific upgrades that the new one has. Go check them out. But today we were just focusing on the Light Bee X because it's the only one I own. And I bought the bike because I used to ride a 200 Kawasaki, which that bike is awesome. Used to race with it. I went to the track a ton with it. Really beast of a bike, but I was always intrigued to buy electric bikes, and I really wanted to get one, but as many of you know, if you're looking at electric bikes, they'll destroy your bank account. So I didn't want to buy an Alta or a big name like electric bike because they're like $12,000 and $13,000, and I don't want to try a new bike, especially an electric bike that's completely different. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't want to spend that much money, to find out. So I came across this bike, and everyone spoke so highly of it. And it was a fraction of what anything its range would be. Other bikes like this, very hard to come across, and they look really dorky, which is stupid. They look like a big box. They kind of look like the Cybertruck. And they're like triple the price. Something like this would normally cost you like $9,000 or $10,000. So, and it's a great like step into the electric world, in my opinion. All right, so it's a little bit of a smaller bike when you get it. It's not a full-size dirt bike. Like I said, it's about the size of a 100. So it's a little bit smaller, but what I was using it for the past year was a lot of hair scrambles and trail riding and stuff like that, and I personally really love the size. It's really easy to maneuver, and stuff that would be really technical on a full-size dirt bike is literally nothing with this. It's super easy to get around anything. Go over any log. Since it is electric, you can jump over rocks. It has instant torque, which is great. That 48 tooth sprocket that it comes with gives it a ton of torque. Actually, I just ordered a 58 tooth, so we're going to give it some more torque in a later video that I'm going to be making. We can talk some specifications really quick. So the bike comes with a 60 volt, 32 amp hour battery. The battery, if you don't know anything about electric bikes, the battery gives power to controller. Controller tells the motor what to do and how fast to go. It has a top speed of 45 miles an hour. It has a couple modes that you can switch in. Right, so you can turn the bike on. You got just a very simple electric bike setup. The only thing electric is over here. It's a speedometer in sport mode, which you can get the full torque out of. You can get the full power of the bike out of, and you can go into EP mode, which will lock it at 23 miles per hour, I believe. Very simple setup, and then you can look down at the front of the bike. There's a little button on top of the battery. It'll give you your battery percentage. Right now we're at 62. Because we've actually been storing it for the winter, so you're supposed to store lithium batteries at just about 0.5%. So it's actually been in storage right now. Also with electric bikes, when you're storing them, you don't have to put them in the garage or rent out a shed or anywhere. You don't have to have a special place to put them. Since they're electric, I just wheel it down in the basement and it just sits there. It doesn't leak anything, which is really, really nice. The charging from dead for the bike is 3 hours from completely dead. I've never had a problem with it completely dying unless I going gung-ho on some trails, but it usually has a pretty good range. The range on it, if you're gunning it through some woods and going over really technical stuff, is about 30-35 miles until it's dead. If you're on the road, I used to use it to like a daily commuter kind of thing to work. I've gotten 55-60 miles on it, so it really depends on how hard you're running the motor, but all in all, it's a really good bike. The range is really good, the power is there, and in that aspect, it's a great bike. So when you get the bike, It is very plain, very easy to assemble. Just the handlebars were disconnected from the fork up here, and then I had to put the front tire on, which wasn't a big deal. It took like 25 minutes to get everything on and situated, and I was ready to ride. Unicycle did a good thing at keeping the battery at half charge, which is good. I don't want any long-term damage done to my battery. Other than that, the bike is completely plain when you get it. I had to add, well, I didn't have to, I added a lot of stuff aftermarket, which I thought, for me personally, was necessary. This back fender here was not even half the length on the stock version, which meant this thing just kicks mud up at me in the back all the time. This thing works great. So I thought the stock fender on the back was way too short. Another thing that I did add was this little mud flap right here. Every single bike ever really has that kind of thing to protect the back shock from mud. I don't know why this one didn't, because this kicks up a lot of mud just because it has so much low end power, but it didn't come with that. So I added this as just a little piece of plastic. Nothing really special, hooked onto this back tail light. Another thing that I did to it was I added a stainless steel bash plate, which it comes with an aluminum one, which is good for about one hit. And I would say you could keep that if you just want to ride it on the road, but I take this thing on trails all the time, so I needed the bash plate to protect my motor. And then it didn't come with a front fender. Didn't really affect the performance of the bike. The bike just needed some things, in my opinion, to make it great. The bike only weighs about 100 pounds, and since it's so lightweight, it actually has a lot more power, I think, than power to weight ratio than it should. It's actually a lot of fun. It's like a big toy. Since it's so lightweight, the Sur-ron has some mountain bike parts running on here. The front fork is a downhill mountain bike fork, and the brakes on here are mountain bike brakes, and the handlebars are also mountain bike handlebars. So it's a very lightweight, maneuverable. It's like a mountain bike on steroids. There's no really any way to describe it. What else should I talk about?
Your mom.
Your mom. Your mom is hot. Alright, so I have a couple things about the bike when I got it that I did not like, and I do not understand why Sur-ron put them on the bike. Your guess is as good as mine. My guess was just to save money, but it was kind of a pain in the butt for me because they kind of cheaped out on a couple things. So the first thing that they cheaped out on was not these tires. I since replaced the tires. They had some cheap CST tires on there that wouldn't grip onto nothing. I would slide out anywhere I go on them. They were really garbage. What I did with them was I kept them and rode them on the road until they were pretty much bald, and then I just tossed them just to get like use out of them. But since then I upgraded to a dual sport tire because I was riding on the road so much, and then I kind of kept it off-road, so I went up and upgraded to full off-road tires. But the stock tires that they came with were garbage. They were like 15 bucks online, and I don't know why they put such cheap tires on there, but I didn't like those, and I had to get rid of those, so that's just what I did with them. Second thing that they did that was kind of cheaping out were the brakes. Again, I wore them down until they were completely bald, and then I just tossed them and I got some new ones. But the brakes that they had on them, the brake pads were some kind of biodegradable padding, and they only lasted me like a month of driving on the road, so I wasn't like slamming on the brakes and using them really hard, but they're really cheap and they broke. And then the brake line actually snapped, so I ended up getting not just new brake pads but entirely new brakes. Like I said, they're mountain bike brakes, so I took them to a mountain bike shop and they put on some new brakes. I got some SLX brakes on there. They were kind of pricey, probably the most pricey thing I did to the bike, but since I've done that, the braking on it, I haven't had any problems with the braking. It's really great. So since I threw everything on there that I kind of liked, the bike has been more than fun. I use it for commuting to work, I race with it, I trail ride with it, I ride it around the yard, and since it's electric, I don't annoy any of the neighbors, which is really fun. It's really fun not having anyone yell at you. Josh doesn't yell at me, right? Alright, so we can talk about maintenance a little bit on this bike. It's one of the huge pros when you buy an electric bike is that there's basically no maintenance on it at all. The only thing I've done to it in the past year is lubricate the chain, and I mean I've taken care of the front fork there and keep that lubricated and clean. Other than that, you don't really have to do anything besides charge the bike and keep it clean. I mean, there's no spark plug, there's no gasoline, there's no oil, you don't have to clean out any tailpipe or anything like that. It's super, super, super low maintenance. So it's a lot of fun with little maintenance on it, which is really cool. I like it a lot. All in all, the bike has been fantastic. I haven't had any problems with it. I've beat it to hell. I've dumped it. I've dropped it in water. I've done countless things to it, and it still runs, and it still runs good. It runs just as good or even better than the day that I actually bought it. So, huge thumbs up for my Sur-ron Light Bee. I am very impressed with this bike, and I'm going to keep on riding it. I'm riding it next year. Luna Cycle, Eric from Luna Cycle, he's kind of the head honcho, is said to be making a bigger battery. Like I said, this one has a 60 volt in it. He said he's making a 88 volt, which is a lot bigger, which is awesome. I think it's 38 amp hours or maybe 41 or 42 amp hours, he said. And then he said he's making a new controller, which would be awesome. It's something I'm really interested in seeing. He said it would be around in time for Christmas, so I can't wait to see that. And if it is everything that he's talking about, I'm more than likely going to buy it and upgrade this bike, because this bike is a lot of fun in a little package. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.